Hello everyone, my name is Andy, aka Andy Rants, and today I want to talk to you about the problems with English classes. So, reading and writing are some of the most important things in my life, so you'd think that I would enjoy a class that is about those things, but you would be wrong. English class, and school in general, is one of the few things I've discovered that can take something that I love and turn it into something that I hate. What we do in those classes is not reading, at least not what I consider to be reading. It's basically just dissecting a book, and in order to dissect something, first it has to be dead. Stories are magical, almost something alive. And when we take those stories into English classes and kill them in order to dissect their story and look for symbolism and metaphors, it's horrible. Everyone experiences stories differently. No two people experience the same story the same way. Well, no two people experience any two things the same way, really. But stories are something that becomes very obvious in. And in English classes, they tend to assume that there's only one way to experience the story. It's usually not a way that I agree with, and as an author, I doubt that it's a way the author would have agreed with either, even though they say, what did the author intend here? Well, I don't know, guys. Maybe the author intended to write a book. We don't get any enjoyment from these stories when we read them in English classes. We're too busy looking for symbolism and plot devices and what the author intended. As a writer, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, because when I'm writing a book, I don't include symbolism. Like, when I write about a lovely door, I mean that there's a lovely door. I don't mean that it, leads to heaven or some weird thing like that. And I'm sure there are authors that do include those things in there, but I don't think it's nearly as many as the English teachers assume. Now, I examine the depths and details of a story for fun, but only within the confines of the story, within that world. Like, seeing what these characters should have done differently and how that would have changed the story, or what I would do in their situation, and things like that. I find that incredibly fun. I do that for fun. But the things that we do in English class are nothing like that. English class has ruined many books for me that I might have otherwise enjoyed. I've only liked one book that I read in English class, which was Fahrenheit 451. That was an amazing book. But other than that, I'm sure there were lots of books that I might have liked if I'd read them on their own, but reading them in class, I despised them. One obvious example of that I know I would have liked if I hadn't read them in school was Gathering Blue and the Messenger, because I read The Giver outside of school and I liked it. But I read the other two books in school and I hated them. I doubt the story changed that much. It's just a matter of the situation in which I experienced those books. When I was in English classes, I used to get in trouble for reading ahead, which I always thought was completely ridiculous. I'm a fast reader, and I like to read books in one sitting so that I can experience the whole story without interruptions. I don't always get the opportunity to do that with incredibly long books like Game of Thrones or something, but with the books in English classes, I never had any trouble reading them in one sitting. And then I would get in trouble for it because apparently you have to interrupt that story to figure out the plot points, and no, you really don't. The worst is when we had to write dialectical journals. I can't think of any worse way to fragment the story than stopping every single chapter to write down your observations and thoughts and questions. It really breaks the flow of the story. So what I used to do is I would read the whole story, and then I would go back and write a dialectical journal on each chapter. But sometimes I would mix up what was in what chapter because I wasn't reading the pages. I was reading the story. And so the chapters all kind of blur together because life isn't separated into chapters. You don't walk into work and then a page pops up that says Chapter 2. Writing was never as bad as reading in English classes. Of course, I never got to write a novel or anything like that I actually wanted to write, but I never really minded writing essays personally. The problem is that there are so many arbitrary rules with writing essays. I grew up being told that when you have an opinion, you're supposed to say, I think, or something to that effect, so that they know that it's your opinion and you know that it's your opinion and not a fact. But school made sure to tell me that that wasn't a good idea in essays. You aren't allowed to say you or I in essays, which in some cases leads to the flow of the essay being horrible. So arbitrary. And so if I forget to say I think in something that's obviously just my opinion, I apologize and you can blame my English teachers. Although pretty much everything on this channel is my opinion, so you can generally assume that. Unless I say, I found this fact on the internet, and then it's someone else's opinion. I certainly did have some good experiences in English classes. Most of them were all the same year. In my junior year, in my English class, we used to talk about philosophy, and it was amazing. I loved it. And I would always leave that class feeling happy and continuing the discussion with my friend. That same teacher, who was also my creative writing teacher, and so he knew a little bit more about me, when we had an essay to do on characterization. We could pick any character from anything, and so I asked him if I could write an essay on one of my characters. And unlike any other English teacher I've ever come across, he let me. And that is my favorite essay that I have ever written. But in general, my English classes and English teachers have never been that understanding or enjoyable. There might be individual exceptions, but all in all, English classes are in serious need of change. We are killing people's ability to enjoy reading. And that is a terrible, terrible thing. I see it all the time at the library. Kids only check out books if they have to read it for school. Or occasionally there's someone who actually enjoys reading, but very infrequently. And that just makes me really, really sad. I'm not sure what we can do to change this, but if there are any English teachers watching or anyone who wants to become an English teacher, do your best to not kill a love of reading in your students. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know by leaving a like or a comment down in the comment section. If you want to see more videos like this one, please click the subscribe button so that you'll be told when I make new videos. And I think that's all for today. Bye!